I'm Jonathan Katz-Moses, and on this week's Joint of the Week, we're going to do the three-way locking miter. Now, this is the hardest Joint of the Week I've ever done. This took me 4 practice tries this week to get it right, but I am so happy with the way it came out. I learned a lot about using hand tools, and it really was the most fun I've ever had doing Joint of the Week. It's got 3 tenons, 2 through mortises, 1 stopped mortise, a bunch of 45-degree cuts. You get to use the handsaw a lot. I use the drill press to clear out some waste. So let me show you how I get started. Okay, so here's a practice one that I did, and I cut off the ends so you can, I'll use these as demonstration devices throughout the video so that you can kind of see what pieces I'm doing and what I'm working on before I get started, so you can kind of see. This is a very complicated joint, and so I want as much visual aid as possible. But the way that they work is you have, we'll call this component 1, 2, and 3. 2 and 3 go together like that, and then slide into component 3, locking everything down. That hole was a mistake, so don't look at that. But it's got 2 through tenons and 1 stopped mortise and tenon. And then to do these, it's mostly hand tools because you really can't get in here with power tools. I do use a drill press to clear out a lot of waste in some, but mostly I'm just using chisels. You're going to use your marking gauge a lot. A marking knife and speed square and a dovetail saw work great for this. You could also use a Tsugi, but any saw that you're comfortable using is going to work great. To get started, we need to have square stock. This needs to be square because you do different things to different pieces that need to be the same on both sides. So make sure you have square stock. And we're going to go ahead and start with component 1. This is by far the hardest. And then everything you do, you're going to measure off of this piece. So you use your marking gauge to see how far the tenon is for laying out your mortise over here. So we get started with this one. Take great care to ensure it's all correct. But I think if you follow the steps that I have here, it's going to be a lot easier than you think. So the first step is you need to mark a line down that is as wide as your piece. So the way I do that, take my marking gauge and just set it flush with my piece, taking great care to ensure that's flush, and then go around and we're going to mark out all our pieces, every side. Just like that. Now we're going to focus our attention on piece 1 here, on the layout. Now the first step is going to be to lay out these 1/4 inch walls right here. And so the way I do that, most good speed squares are going to have indentations in the lines here. It's a good tip for any project you're doing. And what I do is I put the cutter in the 1/4 inch mark and then lock down my square. And that's going to ensure that you're perfectly in a 1/4 inch. And you can't feel this on the video, but it's locked in there. So then what I'm going to do is mark out down the top and down the face. And that's going to give me my cut line for these pieces right here. And you're only going to mark down one face. Next thing is going to be to mark out the insides of our tenons. Now, because we're going to use a 1/4 inch drill bit to clear out this waste, I'm going to just do a little bit more than a 1/4 inch. So what we're going to do, since we already have a 1/4 inch and we need a 1/4 inch in between, we're going to do a 1/2 inch plus a 1/16. 9/16 for you playing the home game. Again, we're going to go down the face of our board here on both sides. So we're going to go all the way across the top and then down the face, down to our line here. And now we need to mark the outsides of our tenon here, and because we added that little 1/16 in there, we're going to do 3/4 of an inch plus a 1/16. And the reason again is we can use that same 1/4 inch drill bit to drill out the waist of our tenon. And again, we're going to mark the top and down one face here. See, we're starting to get a grid pattern here, and these are going to end up being all our saw lines for clearing out this waste. Okay, now we have our tenons marked out, which are here and here. And this one we're going to leave longer than this one, so this is going to be 2 separate measurements here. But I'm going to leave this one 1/2 inch, and this one is going to be just over a 1/4 inch square. So again, we're going to go to our square here. I'm going to lock that in. I'm going to mark it across our face here and up the side. And then for this guy over here, same thing. We're going to go just over a 1/4 inch. So 1/4 and a 1/16. I'm going to use a dark pencil here and really mark out what I'm keeping here, because that's going to be important for the end here. All right, now that we have our grid marked out of saw lines, we're going to come over here. We need to mark out a 45-degree line with our marking knife, and the tops of them are going to intersect in the same corner. So there we go. You can see we have 2 lines there. They intersect in this corner, which is going to end up looking like this piece here. Now it's time to start sawing and clearing out waste. So here we go. Okay, so we're done with number 1, and that one is the hardest. That one you really want to get right, because everything else, like I said, measures off of it. So we're going to get started on component 2, which has a through mortise as well as a full-size tenon. We're going to come in here, and this, as you can see, is going to interfere with this tenon. So we're just going to cut this one in half, and honestly, it doesn't matter where it happens. So just cut that one anywhere, because you're going to drill on component 3 your mortise is going to get drilled all the way through to the tenon. That's the way I find it to be easy. So you don't really have to worry about the height of this one as long as it doesn't interfere with this guy. And so this one is going to have this piece here that fits into this area. So you're going to cut off this 45-degree section, but you're also going to make a 90-degree cut like we did here. And we're going to cut out our tenon and then cut down from both sides, which will give us this 45, which will eventually end up fitting into piece 3 like that, and then going on to piece 1. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're not going to have to use the drill press for anything but the mortise. I like to cut my mortise small and then size my tenon to fit in there. Just you're going to get a lot tighter fit. I was struggling really hard when I was doing these with getting the tenons to fit in there tightly. So I'm going to start with a much smaller mortise and then fit my tenon to it. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but it'll be great. So let me show you how I lay this out. Okay, so we've got piece 2 fit up, and man, is it fitting good. I really like the fact that I cut the mortise a lot smaller and then sort of sized it. That solved some problems I was having earlier when I was trying to cut this joint. Now piece 3. two mortises. One is a through mortise, one is a stopped mortise. It's gonna have one saw cut here, and then you can make this cut on the table saw with a 45-degree sled or with your miter gauge. So we're gonna get in, I'm gonna lay out the through mortise first, get it all cut, and then I'm just gonna drill out this guy. This one you'll never see in the finished piece, so it really doesn't matter too much. I mean, you don't wanna make it too loose, but don't stress over the stop mortise too much. So let me show you how I lay that out and get it cleared. Okay, so we've got everything put together. Now it's time to start fitting it up, and this is no easy task, but that's okay. We're gonna start by putting piece 2 and 3 together, and oh man, that looks awesome. Okay, so check this out, guys. We've got a little gap here that's the same on both of these. So we've got this same gap here, which means we can take just some off of both sides of these, just on the bottom, and we can get them to drop down, and everything's still gonna fit the same. It's not gonna affect any of the tenons and mortises. So what we wanna do is measure that gap, and let's call it, it looks like it's just about a 1/16, maybe a little bit under. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my marking gauge here, we're gonna set it to just under a 1/16. So I'm gonna take this marking gauge here with the 3/16, and I'm gonna just mark a line here on the bottom of both of these pieces. And then we're gonna use a hand plane. In fact, I just restored a number 3 Bailey. That's our previous video. You should go check that out. I'll put a link right here in the corner. We're going to plane these down so that they fit there. So just put them in the vise like this. Then we're going to take the 100-year-old Bailey number 3 that I restored earlier this week and just shave these down. And although this is a great smoother, I think we're gonna get a plane with a more aggressive bite to it here. All right, so I think this is it. Let's check how it's gonna fit here. So everything seems to be fitting pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and put piece 2 and 3 together, and then give this one a little tappy tap tap. There we go. All right, let me get this cleaned up and get some lacquer on it so we can see what it looks like. Holy Toledo, guys. This came out so good. I'm so happy with this. This was really, really hard. And this took me a long time to get right, but I'm so happy that I persevered, because that's what Joint of the Week is about. It's about pushing yourself to be better at woodworking. So get out there in the shop and try something you're scared of. Stay safe, guys. I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful day.